All right, we're live on that thing,
Hi, everybody.
and we're
Welcome.
about to go live on this
As
other
we
thing.
add all of our people.
All of our stuffs and our things. Okay, just a second. All right. Okay, Holly, kick it off.
Welcome, everybody, to Political Head Trauma, where if Head Trauma had a podcast,
It would sound like
it
this.
sounds something like this. Thank you for spending your Friday with us on March 7th, the year of our Lord, 2025.
Oh, and tomorrow is International Lady Day. Huh?
Yes, it is. I
Yesterday,
can feel it.
yesterday we celebrated Lady Day out at work, and we had purple cupcakes, and they gave us out stickers. And the ladies that work out there is, I don't know, some 6 of them, I think, 5 or 6 ladies out there.
Wow, cool. That's hard work.
They got certificates to go get a massage.
Oh, well deserved.
Yes.
I love when women go into jobs that are labor intensive and I mean they've got it down, because that's usually they get paid more than other jobs they may get. And man, do they work hard. But again, I think that it's up to the person, you know. I always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and some women that I know that are moms and work, I have all the admiration because they juggle both. And I think that women are just extraordinary. And I'm glad they have a day of recognition, but I think it's a year-round thing. Plus we get Mother's Day, and then for those that aren't mothers, they get this day, and I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. No, it's a good time.
I like that your work honored them.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's International. I think it's called Women's Day. I call it Lady Day because
You're just that way. I'm hearing echoing.
I am too. Hearing something come through.
Is it me? It's not me.
Might have been my headphones.
Well, I am excited because this week we had Trump's speech, and it was the longest speech known to record on an address to the Congress. And what I have to say is it didn't feel that long to me. And some of his speeches have felt longer, but this time I think, oh, Fred, hi. I kind of like women, he says. Good. You've got plenty in your family.
Yeah, he better like women.
I thought Trump's speech was well executed. I thought there was a lot of opportunities for both sides to come together, and the Democrats just disappointed. Even I'm seeing Democrats come out and say on X, I love X, but it's a dumpster fire. But
that's why I love it.
A lot of Democrats came out and said, I can't believe that our party couldn't stand for a child who's fighting brain cancer, for moms who lost children, for a kid getting accepted to West Point, live on television for everyone to see, to fight, fighting the waste and abuse which is in our federal government, and to fight for peace with Ukraine and Russia. These type of things that we should be able to unite as a people behind, and the Democrats sat on their hands. And so I'm disappointed that we're here, and it felt like Trump was just now, he had to address it to just this side of the room. I'm always like disappointed. I don't love the standing ovation after standing ovation, but I thought a lot of his speech was inspiring. It addressed what a lot of people wanted regarding his election and the mandate of him winning. And I think that overall, people found it well. And even a CNN survey showed that I think it was 57% of the American people are happy with the job he's doing. And that was pulled between Democrats and Republicans. I think that we all know that he can speak with hyperbole,
a little bombastic,
and all of that. We all know that about him. But I also think he has acted far more presidential this go around. And I think the Zelensky situation, a lot of people are angry about that. But for Zelensky to reach out to him the very next day, because he ran to Europe, and if you don't know, I mean, everybody knows, but he went to the Oval Office, and Marco Rubio was there, Vance was there, President Trump, and Trump was there. They were going to sign the agreement, which would be like was it minerals?
Yeah, it's
Precious
a mineral
minerals,
deal.
and kind of like a way for the United States to recap some of to re-get their money back, because Europe went in with 100 million or billion, excuse me, and in exchange they're getting that as like a loan, whereas America went in with nothing, 350 billion with nothing in exchange to the American people. Trump wanted to make it, to pay us back, you can give us minerals or something. But Trump's trying to bring him to the table. He wants peace to start talking. They want peace talks. He's spoken with Putin. Putin's willing to come to the table. And then right there, Zelensky in the Oval Office kind of went back on the idea that he was there to sign a document and then fight it in front of the American people, in front of the press, which was a little disappointing. I can only imagine what these type of conversations look like behind the scenes, but to have it out in the American press, and I don't care that he wasn't wearing a suit. I don't care. A lot of people got hung up on that. I think that you dress for the job you want, and how you dress can define how people will look at you. He came out early on when the war had started saying he was going to not wear a suit until the war was over, and he's dressing in his military looking garb. I don't care. That doesn't bother me. I think there is a respect that should be there, but I think people are I think the American people were happy that Trump stood up for America and that JD Vance stood up for America. The prospects and the way it looked, perception and all of that. I know that he ran to Europe immediately after, all the photo ops and all of that, and Europe was backing him, only to find out, guess what? We can't do this without the United States. So Zelensky reached out to Trump again and said, I'm ready to come to the table. So that was a big deal. Why would we not want them to come to the table?
Well, okay.
Why would Democrats not want them to come to the table?
Because both sides. Look, when Democrats have a success, the Republicans generally don't take it very well. In mass, you'll have certain Republicans that will be kind of open actors in it. And you get the same thing from the Democrat side. I'm wondering if Zelensky got bad advice from like a Chuck Schumer en route to going in there or something like that. I don't know. Because whatever he went in there. I don't know if antagonistic was it, but I mean, I am looking at it. I also look at it from Zelensky's side, because he's up against the wall. His whole nation is. He's looking at a definite possibility of just failure coming down, losing everything. So I get that, but he definitely played it wrong. I am hearing reports that the mineral deal was first floated under Biden administration, and the Ukrainians decided to hold off on it until Trump got in to give Trump the win, because this was in December after Trump had already won. And so it was a lot like they did with the vaccine.
But it doesn't make sense to me. If they already knew why go into the deal with nothing
Maybe
promised?
I think what he was arguing for was that the mineral deal for us getting back the Donbass and Crimea. I think that's what he was arguing for. And I don't know. I don't think that was necessarily on the table.
Didn't they lose Crimea in the first go round?
Yeah, in 2014. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and it's come out that USAID funded the Maidan Revolution. That came out. Doge found it. Doge has the receipts. I've been saying it for how long now? It's tough when people don't listen to you, because these things are fairly transparent. But anyways, neither here nor there.
When both sides are fighting for war, you're going to start to see that there is a real industry that, I mean, we already knew this, that the military is an industry and the contractors and all of that. We want Americans to be safe. Absolutely. And we want peace in the world through strength. But there are people like, since when was the Democrat Party so warmongers? That was always the accusation made towards the Republican Party. And here we are, a total flip. And I'm disappointed that in an opportunity for both sides to at least come together on the American things, a kid getting into West Point, whose grandfather, father, great-grandfather, all served with honor, and he gets accepted live on television. I thought that was so great by the president. I just think these are things that we can, with our neighbor, sit by and go, wow, that was cool. Or the kid who gives the big hug and he gets to be in, his dad is so proud of him and he gets to be an honorary Secret Service member. Why can't we get behind stuff like this?
Evan says, this guy got a huge upgrade talking about me. Sorry, David, she's prettier than you. Kisses.
Oh, thanks, Evan.
She is much prettier than David.
So
little feistier though.
To get to,
but well, let me respond to this real quick. So what if the Democrats in the know are extremely burdened by the loss of some of these government organizations such as USAID, because USAID has been rounding universal government money back into the Democrat Party,
campaigns,
such as Act Blue. And that's Democrats in the know. You got new Democrats, like say AOC, her first go around, probably didn't get this support because she come in from that Cenk Uyghur's party, the Justice Party.
And she called out some Democrat principles
She
like
did,
Nancy
but
Pelosi.
she's totally on board now. I mean, she is totally on board now. So she'll call it out now, but there's probably Democrats we're not hearing from that aren't in the playbook. So they don't know. And then you've got, the Democrats that are in the know, see what's going on.
The kingmakers, the parties are kingmakers, if we're being honest. And Mitch McConnell has threatened many a Republican not to fund campaigns or to fund their competitors if they don't play along.
From what I understand,
both parties.
Mitch McConnell was in on, there was Mitch McConnell and a high-ranking Democrat that was in on brokering the mineral deal in Ukraine prior to back in December, and they had it through. But I do think that Zelensky was shooting his shot to get us to force Russia back into their borders. I think that's what Zelensky was fighting for, and I don't blame him. I would fight for the same thing in his shoes. Who wants to become a leader of a country and lose 20% of that country?
Well, think of the deaths.
Well, the deaths as well.
Property is one thing, but the deaths of an entire generation, and this is horrible.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's huge. So I get it. I'm not going to fault Zelensky for that. I do think
I'm sorry though.
I think he overshot.
Look a gift horse in the mouth. All Vance was saying was, have you even said thank you to the American people? Now, Vance was a hothead, which I can say that. The kid is 41 years old.
Not just that, but Vance knew his role. He is Trump's attack dog. When they sent Vance over to Europe and Europe went over there and scolded them about free speech, I mean, not only do I think that needed a parental advisory, pornographic images about to be shown warning, but that was awesome. And they all of them universally went back to their countries, cried into their phallic shaped pillows, and then went on the news and wept. And, he said mean things about us. We're arresting people for Facebook posts. No, Germany, I'm talking to you.
They're arresting people for praying.
In Scotland, they're making a law that if you live near an abortion clinic, you can't pray in your own home. I want you guys to drink that in.
It's insane, guys. This is insane. This is fascism.
Scotland used to be like this big purveyor of freedom, fought for freedom how many times? And look at them now. They're just lapdogs. They're just suckers. But maybe we're looking at the Great Reset. Maybe we're looking at a restart of this, the new neoconservative progressive era that has been with us since the end of World War II is dying. And it's going to get scary. But maybe it's time. I don't know.
So today, Jordan says, yo, it's time we need to have Jesse Ventura to be president. Jesse, the body Ventura should run for
I'm
president.
telling you.
We need to protect freedom of speech.
I was the governor of Minnesota. Yeah. Was it Minnesota? I think it was Minnesota or Michigan. One of those M's. But
Well, let's get into Utah for a
he's
second.
living overseas right now, though. He lives in Baja. I don't know if he'd have to move back to run.
He lives in Baja, Mexico?
Yeah.
Oh, I can think of
He was
worse places.
Well,
I mean, paradise. In Utah, we're having Utah's legislative session. It's close of session today.
yep. Last day.
So hopefully we'll have more opportunities to get people on the show. Our local representatives, if you have a representative that you want us to reach out to, just send us a message on Facebook or X, or, you know, in the comments. We
Just
read everything.
Wherever, send us a message. I think you can even find my email wherever you look. But yeah, we if you want to hear from your representative live and on the show, let them, or they can reach out to us, any one of them, and they can come on and talk to you about what they did in session, what they come out with. We're definitely going to have our representatives on. We'll have Senator Sandal on again, and then we're going to try to get Senator Thatcher on. He has left the Republican Party as of today or yesterday. He left the Republican Party and he joined the Utah Forward Party, which is Andrew Yang's party. So a lot of questions about that and what have you.
Just to let you know, this news broke today, and I, as the party chair of Tooele County, have yet to hear from Senator Thatcher. So
you were a big supporter of his. You stumped for him. You got him in there. I would dare say you did a lot of work getting him into that seat. Definitely. It's kind of a blow that he didn't tell you he was leaving beforehand. But.
Well, it's the last day of session. We got to focus on the important legislation that's happening. And personally, yes, I'm disappointed. I thought for sure he would reach out and mention that he was leaving the party. Now, he's not resigned. He still maintains the seat. So, we just got through election season, and we're moving forward with election season next year.
Yeah.
For that seat.
Jordan asks, isn't Phil Lyman running for governor again?
Governor's not up for another 3 or 4 years.
He may run in 4 years.
Word on the street is he's considered a run for state party chair.
Yes. So we may see Phil Lyman in the state party chair.
We'll definitely have him on to talk.
Yeah. Yeah. We like Phil. Phil's a good chat.
Yeah. If that's somebody you guys would like us to invite on, please let us know. We do have him on. We wondered what he was going to do. I thought for sure this would be his next move, and it seems like it's coming to fruition. I would like to have all the people running for state party chair. I think for a Republican person who votes Republican, what happens in the state party and the leadership of the party is so important. And we had a Democrat who's running for state party, and so we'd like to have those folks on. Running for the Republican side.
We want everyone. We want everyone who's running on. Fred says, don't be so hard on us 41-year-olds. Fred, don't be on here aging yourself. You're 30. Dwayne says, Europe, like DC, is lost. Fred, I'm kind of concerned about NATO sucking us into a world war 100%.
Are you guys interested in us leaving NATO? I'm curious your thoughts.
Ooh, yeah.
Because that's been floated, and I'm wondering if we're paying all the money and we're promising all the protections, and yet when our guy is trying to get people to the table to talk peace, and that goes for what's going on in Israel too. I mean, you saw his words to Hamas: "You return everybody because we're done with this."
Yeah. I'm telling you, after what they did to that Babas family. That story, if you guys haven't heard it, the Babas family, they murdered I think it was like an 18-month-old,
Babies.
13-month-old, and a 3 or 4-year-old.
And they did it pretty early on, right?
I'm not sure exactly how early on, but they had the father and the bodies for 500 days.
And the mother too, right?
And the mother was the bodies, one of the bodies. Honestly, I think that's turned the tide. Just that news getting out, that was a flub. And they're speculating that Hamas didn't do that some civilians got a hold of the mother and the children and that they did that. If that's the case, Hamas, if you got half a brain, you'll hunt those people down who did that. You'll put them on public trial. You'll hand them over because the world is. I was on the train that Israel has a hard optics war right now. And just that one instance, when you kill an 18-month-old with your bare hands, the party ends. Nobody respects that.
There's so many stories like that from October 7th that haven't, maybe the messaging hasn't been right.
But that was in a moment of war. When you kill a hostage infant, that animal completely changes.
I think it's disgusting.
100%.
And Trump said, I want the bodies as well.
Yeah.
So turn over bodies and hostages that are alive. And the truth is, if the father is still alive and they turn him over to us, that father is going to give us a lot of information about when his wife and children were killed. Because I guarantee we've got
the father. They got separated right off the start.
Yeah.
The father was starved. I mean, if you look at the videos of him, I think he lost 70 kilos.
That might be 70,000 pounds. I don't know. Is it 7 pounds?
It's about.
Is it 7,000 pounds?
A kilo's like 1.1 pound.
Look at you. Check out the big brain on Brad.
So Dwayne says Jesse Ventura was emperor of Minnesota. Yeah, he's awesome. Hey, you got to respect him for being in The Predator. When he offers the tobacco to the guy, he says, make you a sexual tyrannosaurus, just like me.
I didn't even remember he was in that show until you just said that.
Fred says, Thatcher is an interesting duck. Lyman pleased, and he says, yes, let's leave NATO. Nobody else pays our steps up. All of NATO is sucking from the U.S. Well, okay, here's the deal. NATO has been, all those countries in NATO that everyone talks about having this socialized healthcare and all that, they're able to afford that because we have fronted their defense. So, yeah, that is a conversation that they're going to have. They're going to have to see how they're going to go in the future. I think us leaving NATO probably wouldn't hurt us much. And I think we're seeing a realignment. If I was to make a prediction, I predict we're going to have a realignment where we're going to grow closer with Southeast Asia, the subcontinent, India, maybe Australia. I don't know. It depends on how Australia goes with Great Britain. But we're not going to lose Great Britain. Great Britain is logical. They know they can't make it without us. It sounds like Denmark, they had a vote in Greenland, and Greenland voted to join the U.S. So Denmark all said, whoa, no more rhetoric. Let's reach out to the U.S. and offer more space on that large island because that's shoring up against Russia.
Yeah.
And I think Europe needs to recognize that Trump, either he's accidentally making some pretty intelligent moves or he knows what he's doing. I don't know. And then Fred says, the day we declare to leave NATO, the rest of NATO will plead with us to stay and commit to start paying their share. Maybe NATO will just quit being so militaristic and recognize that
they're literally founded, though.
Openly marching into war is a bad idea. Dwayne says NATO was set up as a foil for the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union ended in 1991. That's when NATO should have been dissolved. 100%. We became a semi-communist state to fight the communists.
I personally would love to have an open forum with people who know financially, just country ambassadors, whatever, sit in a forum and discuss the need for NATO. I would like to hear it because just like everything Doge is doing, I want the disinfectant to begin.
Yeah.
Let's
a little
shine
bit of
light on
daylight.
everything. Let's just see, guys. We shouldn't keep doing things because we've always done them.
Yep.
That's the literal definition of insanity. So
Yep.
let's have these conversations. And I want Ukraine safe. I want the people of Russia safe. I want the people of Israel and Pakistan safe. All of this in Palestine. Did I say Pakistan? All of this, we
Yes, you did
should
say
have
Pakistan.
peace in
But
our
we would
world.
like Pakistan as safe as
Yeah,
well.
I want them safe as well. Give everybody safe. Keep them
And
all
we'd
safe.
like it safe enough to where the Kashmiris stay in Kashmir. They feel safe there. Okay. Jordan says the government should not be anyone's nanny. 100%. We're supposed to be free individuals that pay our own way. Again, I've said this before. I'm a Lockean liberal. That's what I am. I'm not a Rousseauian liberal, and we need to get rid of that Rousseauian ideals. Jordan Lott.
You read that one already.
We need more peace and ending the wars overseas. It should be the main focus of the Trump administration. Yes, he should revert back to where he was. Ending the wars overseas, pulling us out. I know I watched an Eric Prince interview on Constantine Kinson's show.
Nailed it.
Trigonometry. And
Constantine what?
Kissin. And they asked him about using PMCs instead of military and the abilities of that, which is true. PMCs offer a different level. Private military contractors
Thank you.
offer a different level of effectiveness and different missions you can do. And they have a lot less overhead and a lot less liability for the general populace. They are pound for pound, a little more expensive, but
Probably very effective.
a lot more dynamic. Now, there's not a PMC on earth that will stand up to, the 75th Ranger Battalion. They would run over any PMC out there. They would run them right over. I'll bet the Ranger Battalion would lose.
What qualifies a PMC? Is that like SEALs, or
No,
is it like
PMCs are
Team
private.
SEAL 6?
No, it's Blackwater, the Wagner Group. Those are private military contractors.
So members of the military that go private?
Well, usually, but they get out and they go private. Eric Prince, he come from the SEALs. I want to say SEAL Team 5, but I can't remember. But he started up Blackwater. He's a rather well-to-do Texan and used his family money to start up Blackwater. It's had its names changed a few times, but they were very effective in Iraq.
Who sends them out?
Their contracts.
But does the federal government send them out?
They don't send them out. Yes, they pay for a contract. The government says we're putting out a contract to have this mission met.
Gotcha.
Okay. The guys that were in Libya during when Libya fell and they took over
Benghazi?
Yeah, Benghazi. Those were private military contractors. They had a contract to perform security, and they also had a contract to do a QRF.
I wonder if our government is communicating so we know that there's private military in certain locations. And
no, they don't have to express that.
So what happens when we send our military into a place and there's private military there already? Do they understand that we're all Americans?
They usually know. They work together.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
The field officers generally know what PMCs are there.
Well, we got a lot of bills that are going to come out of the state today. Tonight. It's a very busy time. I would personally like to thank everybody who has spent all this time on the Hill. It's been, I'm sure, a labor of love for some and excruciatingly tough for others, but I'm very proud of those who are serving our county and the interests of the voter. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what we get.
Yeah. David says China literally challenged us all to a measuring contest, and we are still all worried about the Ukraine.
They did. They
sure.
did over the tariffs.
Sure, the tariffs are going to be a different one. Of course, China only got a 10%. When Canada and Mexico are getting heavier tariffs, of course,
we're matching
all of them.
Theirs.
But China, I think we did that tariff with China because one, a population that's larger and wealthier than the other two that can afford more of our stuff. The matching tariff, we'll talk about the tariff war after we're done with our interview that's coming up right now. Fred says, great idea on NATO, Holly. All is listed except Palestinians. There's no such place as Palestine. That's an argument I'm not going to broach. Dwayne says, Trump, I want the dying to stop. And then me too. He's been anti-war since 1971.
And why is that so bad for a president to be outward and say, look, we're done with this. There's too many people dying. This needs to stop. Why so much hate? Why can't both sides say, you're right, this is where we need to go? He's asking, this to me just seems so, this should bring us all together.
Yeah.
And this isn't any stab on Ukraine. After, we know what's going on. I feel like the guest that we had, the Marine that was there fighting, gave us such a different insight.
He would be
to what's happening in Ukraine.
He's a part of a PMC.
Right. But there should be no argument about wanting the dying to stop.
Yeah. Fred says Ranger yells at Capitals, goes Spurgeon out. Yeah, Ranger,
Okay, Dwayne.
The ultimate infantry.
That's what I wanted to know.
Okay, Dwayne says contractors are mercenaries like the Hessians during the Revolutionary War.
They don't have to follow the same rules that our military does. Is that right?
It depends. They have to follow laws of the field they're in. Those laws are dictated by the country that contracts them.
But they're secret. How do people know if they're following those laws?
Oh no, they've broken the laws and they've stood trial and sat in prison for it too. That's why Blackwater changed its name to something else 2 years into their contract.
Then what do we need the CIA for? If you can just contract mercenaries or private military to go in and handle stuff.
Because
CIA
the CIA
just gathering information.
The CIA has blackmail on all of our. No, they're PMCs can be anything from intelligence to direct action.
I thought so. Okay.
Yes, the Hessians were mercenaries. Matter of fact, we've been a weird 100 years. This is the first time in 100 years where mercenaries and contractors weren't the dominant fighting force on the field. It's a weird time. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. Look at any armies of the past. When you look at Alexander the Great, he had armies from all over the place. Those were all contract armies that they signed on with him. He had a very small fighting force from northern Greece.
Thank you all for your comments.
Yes.
Please keep them coming. We're very excited, and you introduce our guests.
Yeah, our guests are here right now. And so we're just going to bring them on. We've got Aaron and Tobin coming on. Now, Aaron is not on camera right now, but Tobin is, and there he is. And they're coming on. They are with the Utah blockchain. What's the C stand for again? Sorry, guys.
Tobin, why don't you introduce yourself and Aaron?
Coalition. Yes, I was going to say collective, but I was like,
collective bargaining
to speak. All right. So Tobin is the guy on the top right. Aaron is the guy on the bottom. Of course, their names are there, but tell us about the Utah Blockchain Coalition. I read through a little bit of the website. I'll be flashed the website on and off as we chat.
Cool.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead, Aaron. Do you want to start?
Oh, he asked you, Tobin. You better go.
So Amelia and I have been attending conferences called the Government Blockchain Association Conference. It's once, sometimes twice a year in DC. And out of all the blockchain conferences, it's the one that we feel is the most worthwhile for us. And they started having speakers come on from individual states representing trade associations that had been that basically started a group to support the local economy. And we looked at each other and said, and we took a Provo City Council member with us to that conference, and we said, why doesn't doesn't Utah do that? And we came back, we didn't see anything like it, and we decided that we should get it going, start one
And you
up.
say
So
Amelia is your wife, and what does she do in Utah County?
so she is one of the 3 county commissioners.
Excellent.
Originally the clerk auditor.
That's awesome, because
And
when
we're
you
gonna-
combine blockchain with government, tell us, because maybe not everybody understands, but blockchain is a way to protect information, and it's reserved for those who have a password, and it's for them and them alone, right? It's not like anyone can access who's got what in the blockchain, which makes crypto so protected. So tell us that marriage of blockchain and government and how that could be useful.
Yeah, I would say, and I'll let Aaron add on, but simply it's more transparent. It's immutable. It's more secure. You had mentioned voting. Some of these military members, missionaries, we have a lot of in Utah, right? They would vote via email. There's no way to have a secure and private vote when you have to do it by email. So that's an easy example, right? So that's one of the things that Amelia implemented while she was a clerk auditor there.
Yeah, and we're going to have her on. I want to dig into that when she comes on for sure. But I would like to know, what do you think? What applications for government using blockchain are you guys interested in or exploring right now?
Yeah,
Aaron,
great
do you want to hit
question.
that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So there's just so many interesting applications, and the ones that we're looking at right now of particular interest. One is the tokenization of municipal bonds. So, and this is kind of this, some of this is in the weeds, so we don't have to, dive into technical on that, but being able to take bonds that's debt that's being sold, right? If you know how city bonds work, a lot of times you end up paying 5 times the value, right? Because you've got these intermediaries and the way that the bond selling structure works. And there's a really interesting use case of being able to disrupt that by bringing that straight to your voters. Wow, there's a new thought, being able to allow your constituents in a county or a city be able to actually purchase those bonds. So this is an incredible use case, right? I mean, that's really interesting to allow you and me to be able to go out and say, I'm actually going to invest in my city bonds. I want to do that. I want to go out and contribute to city improvements and infrastructure and different things that those bonds are going to be used for.
Yeah, you're
And to be
betting
able-
on your community, essentially.
right.
Kind of a democratic investment.
Yep. So I love that kind of thing. I think here at UBC, we get excited about those types of applications, right? Where we're really changing, we're bringing more involvement to the people, letting them being able to participate in some of these types of processes and contributions to a community, and doing it in an extremely secure way. So fundamentally, like Tobin said, the technology allows for very secure, you can't hack it, you can't change it. Because of the way the technology is set up. And so it's very transparent. It also is a huge deterrent to corruption or trying to, fraudulently change or modify transactions or things that happen. You can't do that on the blockchain either, right? And so it really is a fascinating vehicle to explore for government use cases. And I'd say that's a big one that's come up recently is the municipal bonds.
I like that. That would give the opportunity if there's something being floated in your county or your city, that'd give an instant opportunity for feedback where you don't have to wait for a new election to put it on the ballot. It can be feedback that the people, they want it. It gets funded right then and there.
And it's anonymous. So let's say that you want to give an opinion and it may not represent a party you believe in or something you believe in. You can anonymously give a yay or nay on something and nobody knows it's you, right? Nobody has a record of who's who on this technology, right? Other than explain blockchain for those people who are new to it.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, right? Because, and this is a huge piece of what, Tobin, should we call it, a big point of debate in the technology in this space right now, the digital identity piece that has to go along with it. But privacy historically has been a huge part of this technology, the development of the technology. So to your point, yes, the privacy piece, the anonymity piece, and that is still there. But also, it's also context specific, right? Being able to, within certain contexts, being able to trace and understand who's participating. And so there are different contexts there, and this is still being hashed out in the industry itself, right? How do you protect the privacy and the digital identity, but also have the digital identity in place so that speeds up so many things? And you could think about use cases in, different DMV offices, right? How many hours do you spend waiting in line to change a driver's license or different addresses? And if you put some of those pieces on chain, you could take care of it from your phone at home, which is
Explain
incredible
how
idea.
it works.
Well,
Because this goes back to Bitcoin. So I want to start from the beginning. Like, how does this technology work for a layman person? When you say
Yeah.
blockchain, I'm thinking, I know what it is, but I want for people to be able to understand exactly how it's so secure
Right.
and what it
So,
is.
yeah, so think about a block. If you want to put a visual on it, a block is really just a group of transactions, right? And you can think about it like a cube, if that helps to visual it that way, like a block. But really, it's a block of transactions. And when the cube fills up with transactions, when that block fills up, then it is finalized and put on the chain. The chain is just a string. It's just a history. It's a history of transactions. Okay, a history of. So it's like a ledger. And this technology was originally called distributed ledger technology, and DLT, which is kind of one of the early names of it. And it's distributed, for those who want to know, because it's not like on your computer. You have a laptop right now or a server, if it's a company, and all that information stored on a hard drive, right? And that's a single
Your
point.
IP address.
Yeah. That's a single point of storage or a single point of failure, a single point of being able to access that. But with distributed ledger, you have multiple points of that same transaction history stored on different devices. So you could
people
have,
who sign up have a ledger of their own, and they can compare ledgers against ledgers to see if any corruption has taken place or anything has been hacked and changed. They would physically have to hack and change multiple
Servers.
ledgers.
They're
Right.
stored on servers all around the world, right? And they bounce around constantly. So
Yep.
a hacker would not just have to hack into one IP, they'd have to hack into a series of servers, and not any identifiable servers. They couldn't
Right.
really go to certain locations. It's all over the place.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a question come across us asking what blockchain was. So
Yeah. Does that help? Is that basically?
let's see what the listeners say about it.
And one way to look at it, you guys, an easy way to look at it is Bitcoin is to blockchain what email is to the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can kind of visualize that,
I think
go ahead.
A lot of people have been confused by Bitcoin from the jump. And I think that that's probably the messaging of Bitcoin could probably have been better understood had they explained that part of it. Because I think that, and I'm guilty. It was like, I can't own it, can't hold it, I can't see it. It's a password that I have to memorize, because if it ever gets out, someone could steal it and all of that. But I don't understand how it's not hackable or traceable. And I think a lot of people are just confused by it all. And yet there is a simplicity to it that has it ever been hacked? Has anyone
No.
ever been able to hack into the blockchain?
Bitcoin
No.
specifically, or just any blockchain, or?
Any blockchain, just with this technology and how it works.
Right. No, as Tobin's saying, no. Like, the cryptography that protects and secures these chains is extremely complex, right? And so there's a lot of talk now around quantum computing applications being able to eventually potentially do that. But then they're already ahead of that, talking about, well, how do we secure against the quantum technology? And so
Then they
they're already
use a quantum computer to write the next cryptology, and then you've got to get I've got a thought as you were talking. Have you approached the government yet with ideas? Because I'm wondering if you could put, like, we've got a sample group that's semi-exclusive, but big enough to do a test run to see where you could go with it. And that's your concealed carry waiver holders. If we could get that's the concealed carry permits, the concealed firearms, get them on a blockchain. And then that blockchain would probably need a governance to update if anyone gets flagged through the FBI or anything else, which could be a quicker stopping point than we've got now, where it sometimes people, their concealed carry permit goes through. And if they could do it like that, that could be a test run.
Yeah. So I love that use case. And I just met with a company last week that's looking for the next series of funding. It's called Indicio, INDICIO. They are doing something that's similar to what you're talking about with passports. So they've already got it built out with like this digital identity piece that speeds up your passports, so that if you're going to another country, you'll know before you even get on the plane if they're going to let you in, which is really cool. You know,
and that's an international application. That's perfect right there.
So right now we have session, last day of session. Has any of this, in any way, shape, or form, been brought to our legislature here in Utah? Because you mentioned Utah wasn't part of this, Tobin, when you and Amelia went to DC. So have you been able to get some structure on this? Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember right off the bat what year we passed the Digital Innovation and Blockchain Task Force, but that was really the start of blockchain legislation in Utah. I want to say it may have been 2021, maybe 2022. That created a body where all the blockchain related ideas, digital innovation ideas would go first, and then it would, obviously go through the regular channels. The idea was to weed out the less popular ideas, or the crappy ideas, right? So that was the start. And Amelia was one of the 15. I think it was the governor selected 5, the Speaker of the House selected 5, and the Senate President selected 5 to represent. And what was really cool about that task force, I believe it just sunsetted and they just finished earlier this year, maybe last year, but end of last year. It was a large percentage of industry leaders. So it wasn't just a bunch of politicians. It was
good.
It was probably half and half. So that was really cool to see that. And I believe we passed. We had it tracking on our website, and then we made some changes, and we don't have that on our website. But there's been I want to say over a dozen related blockchain digital innovation legislation that has been passed in Utah since that. This year, the one that we've been focusing on, I've got it up on my other screen here, is a lot of people refer to it as the strategic Bitcoin reserves bill. You guys have been hearing about that, especially nationally, right?
I know Trump has talked about it. We had Senator Sandel on a few weeks ago, and we asked him, is Utah planning to put some reserves in Bitcoin and invest in at least a currency that is a digital currency. And he said that's all in talks up at the state. It's a great idea, and he could see how that would be valuable. At the same time, national talks about it. And, we've seen Bitcoin fluctuate this past couple weeks. And so I think people are, I hate to say it, but a lot of people are just getting on board now, understanding that it's another currency that we shouldn't be missing out on as a government, as taxpayers and with our dollars. The fact that it could be used, and it is being used nationwide or worldwide, excuse me. And so I think that it's a lot of people are just learning now, and we want to educate the people so that they understand when this type of talk gets talked about, and whatever legislation is going on. And I'm glad there are people who really understand it up there talking to our legislators, because, they're just people like us. And it seems complicated, but the possibilities are endless for what this could be used for in a positive way.
Yep. No, we absolutely agree.
So share with us what you guys do and what your companies do and what your goals are with this technology, now that we kind of understand what it is.
Sure. So we primarily focus on education, advocacy, and helping to drive adoption of the technology. So we have our hands in a lot of different things, as you might imagine. Obviously, you're aware that we work closely with government and legislators here to drive that policy forward in a meaningful and educated way. And that's very important. Driving use cases is also something we love to do and support, but also the private infrastructure as well, private startups and technology. And we've kind of been in a winter for a while on that, right? So Utah is hopefully coming out of that now. Hopefully we're entering more of a spring for this technology, because the last 3 to 4 years have just been death for a lot of the startup projects that we had here. From a regulatory standpoint, on a national level, that's struggled, right? So we've had to try, and there's been a lot of just waiting, right? Waiting around for the regulatory climate to change, which it is now finally, which is very exciting. And we're hoping that will foster and promote a lot more innovation. And we want to attract that here to Utah. So that's a big piece of what UBC does as well, is we want to attract that top blockchain developer talent here. We want that to be here. We want people to see this as a place where they should come. The truth is, Utah's living well below our potential. We have a strong technical infrastructure and finance. You guys probably know that. Just the great things we have about our economy here. We could do a lot more, and we really could be a strong center for the development of this tech. And so that's a big piece of what we're hoping to help promote and push that along. So a lot of it's building community, building networks, and then getting the education out as well and helping people learn about it, helping people understand the history, and then, maybe push away some of the monsters under the bed if we can.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a lot of people fear Bitcoin because they see it as a fiat being built on top to fight a different fiat. And granted, it's not tactile, but it's moved into this. It's mining, I guess, use the technical term, into the space that everything is moving into.
Yeah.
What can I say?
Yeah.
From the jump, there was an impression for the average person, because we heard that it was being used to purchase things nefarious, drugs, child trafficking, all these things, because it was undetectable. Then we know that, or untraceable, or whatever, you could have your privacy and anonymity. Then our government spoke about regulating it, which made those who owned it say, whoa, 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 this was created because regulation. We don't want government determining our value. We don't want government deciding how to tax it, because they will. So when you talk about the regulatory ideas that were coming out of Congress, that was happening for quite a while. Where do you see our government now and the Congress and Senate that we have right now? Are they looking to regulate it in some way? Is that something that is needed for this technology, do you think, or should this be left alone by government?
Yeah, great question. So we definitely need the regulation because we need the guardrails. And we've, like, during the last administration, we didn't have that. Like the SEC, they provided no guidelines, no guardrails. The industry was begging for it. And it's really an interesting irony, right? Where you actually you have an industry that's saying, please give us rules, please regulate us so that we know how to thrive. We know how to apply this in a responsible, safe way. And that just, it wasn't forthcoming. And so it was a strange stalemate. And now
Well, that would
we're finally,
legitimize. It would legitimize it more if the government recognized it, deregulated it. Then it wouldn't just be this secret underground currency. It would be open to everyone, governments included, and everyone knew the rules for
Right.
it, and it would
Yeah.
legitimize people.
Yeah, I think, and that's what the industry's been looking for. And like Tobin said, we do separate Bitcoin from blockchain, right? I mean, but Bitcoin rests on blockchain, but we speak about it separately just because it happens to be the front and center use case these days, right? Where
Yeah.
it's but all these other applications we've been talking about with passports, putting concealed carry permits on it, that's completely separate, right? That has nothing to do with Bitcoin. So for the listener out there who doesn't understand that, these are very different applications of the same technology. And that's why, we do want guidelines around the financial space for sure, because that's, the Bitcoin piece that you're talking about, Holly, that's kind of where that regulatory piece that people have really been wanting to see that. But you better believe that the biggest banks out there, they're already so deep into blockchain. Like they've been doing that behind the scenes. They've got it. They know it's coming. And that's what's so interesting. They've already spoken quietly, with their development and investments in this tech. So,
Yeah. Well, all I see lately is news about XRP, which is I think, granted, I am a wrench turning moron, but XRP to me looks like, I don't know, maybe a government backed cryptocurrency or a central bank backed cryptocurrency that's trying to break in and take over that field. Because it's got so much crazy support that they go out and they hire good-looking people to do nothing but talk about them on the different TikTok and YouTube and all that. And so I'm thinking that's what I think that is.
Isn't that
I may
what we
be
all
wrong.
do?
What's that?
Isn't that what we all do, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
here, right? I mean,
but I haven't seen. The only time I see stuff like that is it's like they're buying attractive people to be their advertisement.
That's marketing, though.
And it's just the way it's flooded the market makes me think that it's
He doesn't trust government, is what he's getting at.
oh yeah, that's
Or
all. It is.
banks.
the interesting thing is that that I find fascinating with Bitcoin and blockchain is I originally got into it because of two things. I worked at Fidelity Investments during the downturn. I was there from 2007 to 2019, and they were getting very serious on into blockchain and Bitcoin. They were mining and everything. They would encourage their employees to learn about it. While I was there, I also heard about it from libertarian groups. So it was really my company who I had a lot of trust in. They're one of the few private family-run organizations, and then the libertarian community. And I had flown, probably the first time I had flown on my own. I flew over to New Hampshire to participate in one of their libertarian events, and they were talking about it. And this must have been 2013.
Little pork fest action, maybe.
Yeah, actually, it was. It was. I can't remember what it was called now, but the libertarian. Oh man, I can't remember. Anyway, but that's where my interest began, and then of course, my two claim to fames is number one, getting Amelia to say yes to my proposal, and number two, getting her to to become interested in this space, because I knew with her engineer technical mind, I knew that if either one of us could do something cool with this space beyond, of course, just simply investing, it was going to be her. And come to find out, fast forward 6 months, a year later, she ends up getting elected and doing some cool stuff, and here we are. So
and I can't wait to talk to her. I met you guys in DC, and she used the Ethereum mesh network, which is awesome. It's a trusted network. It's known. Yeah, I think that's great.
So,
but the XRP, the one that gets me, is just that specific. I don't know anything about it.
I'm going to be careful, because I know one of our elected leaders' spouse.
Oh,
they're big into XRP, and I do have some, but I think it comes down to there's decentralized and there's centralized, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a big fan of centralized, right? That kind of, in my mind, that kind of defeats the original purpose, right?
There you go. That's where I'm at.
Blockchain. So anyway.
So I'm just curious, because we had a guest on recently that talked about information. Data is the new financial driver. Everyone wants data. This particular technology actually gives the average American a way to protect their data in a way. So at the DMV, with their passport, maybe eventually with their bank accounts, with their home mortgage, with all these, I see all these applications just going through my mind about how amazing would it be that you get to control because we've got scammers everywhere.
Well, the blockchain,
and you get to protect what you want to protect using this blockchain technology, correct?
Blockchain it can, depending on how it's written, or it can be written so it's totally transparent.
No, I'm saying that it's a definite need to the marriage for government and this technology. That just makes sense. And then the privatized community. So yes, Utah does have a Silicon Slopes. I mean, we've got an amazing opportunity here in Utah. Technology wise, we've got so much tremendous growth technology wise in the state. This just feels like the right thing, the next thing that keeps us top of the game in the country for Utah. And I just feel like this will empower the American people to know that if there is a marriage with government and this technology, we might have better protections for our personal lives. Is that right? Am I missing it here?
I agree. Go ahead, Aaron.
Go ahead, Tobin.
Well, I was going to say one of the controversial things that I don't even know if we touched on it this year, if it was early in the session, but the controversial thing, especially amongst the very most conservative of us, the digital IDs, right? So It sounds like we're giving our information to the government, when really, like, the government is giving the information to us. Like, they created our social, they created this driver's license, and then if anything happens, change, like, we got to go and ask them permission to give it back. And then when we go to somewhere that needs 21 and over or whatever, right? Or a cop, we show them everything about us, and I think that with the digital ID, we can just show them the one piece of information that they need. And that's one of the many things that Amelia can dive in a little bit deeper, but I think that's just maybe an easy example.
Yeah. Aaron, what were you going to say, Aaron?
Yeah, to clarify for those who are listening, with the technology, you can create almost like little packets, almost like a little wallet that has little different compartments in it. And so, in the case of you need to show an officer or someone pieces of information, you can decide what you show them rather than here's your entire life spread out all at once in one view. And I think that's what Tobin's talking about, which is really intriguing, right? Being able to just, you decide, it empowers you to say, okay, what do you need to show? And then the rest I am going to keep private. In this case, I'm going to keep private because I don't need to show it. And so there are some intriguing ideas and possibilities there as well.
I'm thinking of the people in India that are constantly calling my mother and sending emails to my mother, and that are able to get, they're scamming people every single day. In fact, there's a whole industry now on YouTube where they're catching scammers. And how great would it be if, when I give you my credit card, I have to give you the number that's actually now like you have the card on it, where I should just be able to purchase this item and decide what information you get, because it is so finite that it would protect me from scammers stealing my identity and things. There's comments here.
Yeah, Doyne says you can only regulate something you understand. Only we tech weenies get how it works. Haha.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that is very true.
he says that you need to describe the difference between
Centralized and
centralized
decentralized.
Do you want me to do that one too?
Yeah, sure.
Well, actually, let me take this one.
Okay, yeah.
Centralized is the government makes the coin and distributes it to you. Decentralized is your neighbor makes the coin and distributes it for a price out onto the market.
Okay.
Well, does your neighbor decide if it's worth anything or not? Or does the
No, the
public
market
decide?
decides.
Because the
The market,
government
yeah.
could actually, when they got rid of the gold standard and went to the value of the dollar, didn't they decide the value of the dollar?
Yeah, well, guns decide the value of the dollar. The market decides, just like with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's is not valued by any one person. It's valued by everyone who has interest in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay.
And on top of that, Jared, I would just add that so when we're back to this idea of the blockchain being different, like a computer, decentralized ledger. So a huge piece of that is actually the copy of the ledger. So when we say centralized or decentralized, we're talking about where is that copy of the ledger resting. And so far, like if you're a big tech company, it's centralized because all the information is in your servers. If you're a big tech company, pick one. It's all in your servers. For any other chain that's out there, if it's a public chain, one of these big public chains that's going to be a network to process all this stuff, the idea is that it needs to be decentralized so that it's no longer in one house anymore. It's out there, and a big tech can't just come and control it and manipulate it and change it, because they control it. So one of the ways they test that is they look at the number of nodes, or a node is just a way of saying a computer that validates the network with a copy of the ledger. So, Holly, you were saying about how computers all over the world could have a copy of that. That's more of a decentralized feeling where you've got copies of that all over the world, and it's not in one geographic location or in one particular corporate entity's control. So the less nodes you have, the less decentralized it is. And I'm not going to mention the coin that you mentioned, but that one has a very low number of nodes. That's just a fact. And so it probably raises concerns about centralization, because if you've got 100 nodes and that's it, that's not super decentralized, right?
And if all those 100 nodes work for the same organization who's pushing it out, then that's just, that one's got me fired up lately. I've asked everyone I know who's into Bitcoin, including Dave, what do you think about this? And he says he's nervous about it. But the way it's advertised, it's not Bitcoin's value come onto the market slowly by proving itself. Ethereum's value came onto the market a little bit on Bitcoin's coattails, also by proving itself. Doge came on as a joke, but then, some people, it's the penny of the Bitcoin, of the cryptocurrencies, I guess you could say. It's the invest in for fun, and sometimes it pays off.
There's
But
so many now.
this XRP is coming onto the market by them, it seems like, going out and hiring attractive people to talk about it. And then
What
if
did
you
watch? Where are you watching? You keep
It's-
saying attractive. Like, how often do you see unattractive people marketing things?
I'm telling you, well,
Hey,
there
Fox
probably
News
is.
is the best at that.
Exactly.
But that's what it's crazy, because I have a friend on TikTok who I followed who just talked about normal stuff, and then she switched
She's
over
a
to
female
that.
and she's hot.
She's an attractive lady, but and then it was all of her friends in XRP started friending me and then sending me.
It sounds
get
like
a
a
flood.
multi-level marketing scheme.
It kind of is,
Made
yes.
up of beautiful people selling it to
And
you.
then all they say, it's going to the moon, and that's another.
Well, again, in the marketing world, that's the point, is to
That's
sell
another-
a product. And if you're heating it, it probably reminds you of the job, how much they marketed that on behalf of the government. I mean, when they're giving you free cookies to go in and get something, or money, it does put your feelers up that
Yeah.
something's not right. But if I had a product, the first place I'm going to go is to influencers now, because they're getting right in front of people. And I definitely go for the pretty ones.
It's crazy to watch
Because
how
some people just follow lots of pretty ones.
It's crazy to watch how because she initially talked about she was kind of hyperbolic, talking about disasters in the news, like natural disasters. And she had thousands of followers.
Yeah.
And since she switched over to this XRP, they have fallen off, because I think everyone sees
interesting.
it. What's that?
Wow. I say that's interesting.
Yeah.
You said that her followers have dropped.
Yes, they've fallen off because she brought people in with kind of that entertainment value, and now she's an infomercial for knives.
That's how I feel about multi-level marketing people. You can almost sniff them out on the socials.
And I'm not talking bad about her or even about that. I'm just saying, for me, it's not my bag.
Yeah.
All right, you were about
So
to say something, Aaron?
Yeah. And this is just for general enlightenment for everybody listening, and for you guys. I think it's helpful to understand what XRP is. It's a very different animal than Bitcoin or like Ethereum, just because fundamentally it's not like, it is designed to change the way that we handle financial transactions. So it's almost like, you almost have to look at it like a software program that's built on blockchain with a very targeted purpose. So it's not a Bitcoin, it's not an Ethereum, it's not a layer one chain. It's very much this is a very specific application. It's going to change global payments and financial services. It has a very specific use case. And so you almost have to look at it like that. Like, it's a company. That's probably why they're promoting, because the XRP coin, the tokens, it's almost like a stock, right? And I have to be careful saying that, because there's a lot of debate right now on what constitutes a security, right? But
Only
it
for
is
the American people, not for politicians. But go on.
Right.
Is
So I don't know if
it
that
like
helped.
a competitor? Is it like are you talking like maybe a Swift competitor?
So it's in that ballpark. Yes, you're getting close, right? You're getting closer to what it's attempting to do, and it's a very exciting application of the blockchain technology. But it's
That
attempting
changes
to
my thoughts on it totally.
Yeah, right. And
That really does, because that takes how markets get locked by certain strong nations, and then enemies are made that way. That kind of takes that idea off the table. Okay, go on. I'm a little happier about it now.
So yes, and so this raises a question, right? And this is something that the industry is going to have to look at. Governments will have to look at this. How much do we care about decentralization? Well, we do care, but then this particular example raises the idea that maybe we care differently depending on the use case, depending on the situation, right? And so it's an interesting question, right? Do we care? Yeah, we do. We definitely care. How much do we care depending on the situation, may change. There may be some variation in there. And so, like, it's new stuff. It's new ground, right, for everybody
Yeah.
going into this. And so hopefully that helps as people think about that.
Well, if it's competing against SWIFT, that is more decentralized than SWIFT.
What is Swift? So you got to talk to people like they're
SWIFT is
just
how we
learning
do
this.
international transactions. That's usually the first punishment that the U.S. brings down on foreign countries that we're mad at, is we lock them out of SWIFT. And that's where what the heck is the Russia, Brazil, India, BRICS. That's where the BRICS come from, to compete with SWIFT, correct?
Mm.
I don't know, because Thomas
Thomas
says, I think it's good that Trump is building up reserves in Bitcoin as a protection against countries like China, which are planning to de-dollarization in addition to the trade conflict. Aramco is also already getting paid in Petro
yuan. It's probably like the petrodollar.
So if the Chinese throw the government bonds onto the open market, things won't look good for the dollar. What do you guys think about that?
That was a lot of you coughed at, and we'd have to read that again. Because, okay, Thomas George Pullman.
Higher.
He's from Liberland. He's I think he's German, but he's affiliated with Liberland. He says, I think it's good that Trump is building up reserves in Bitcoin. This is a protection against countries like China, which are planning de-dollarization in addition to the trade conflict. Aramco is already being paid in petro yuan. If the Chinese throw the government bonds into the open market, things won't look good for the dollar. It's another backed currency. That's my thoughts on it. It's throw money into Bitcoin. I mean, anything can affect anything nowadays, but I imagine if they de-dollarize, the Bitcoin would probably gain a little more value.
I still don't understand. I mean, I think it's international. These coins are all international, correct? Any crypto.
They're supernatural.
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, I would say that's accurate. So
they're international. So a person in Germany could purchase them just like a person in the US and mine them, essentially, right?
I don't know about Germany.
Crypto.
There are some exceptions to that. Countries that don't allow crypto, right? Then you wouldn't be able to operate in those countries. So you'll see case by case exchanges that are international that say, sorry, we can't operate in your country. Sorry, you can't purchase tokens on our platform because it's not allowed. So there is still that out there. But in theory, yes, you're right. You could buy it internationally.
So if it's out there and there's countries not recognizing it, then I think that devalues it in some way, right? Whereas all countries would accept a US dollar or an equivalent in a currency exchange. But if countries won't even recognize it, what does that mean for crypto?
It might increase the value, because when China devalued it, all their miners moved to Kazakhstan, and the value of Bitcoin in China doubled overnight, because it became a way that Chinese people could express themselves financially without the CCP's hand in their wallet.
Okay, do you guys agree with that? I'm curious.
Yeah, obviously the global impact's a big body of water, right? And so the splashes of these different pebbles will affect things differently. I mean, there are ripples, right, that you'll see kind of hitting each other, touching each other. But overall, like Jared was saying, there's a lot of different variables now to try and compute everything. If you're trying to do cause and effect, it's not a simple equation anymore. I'm reading about 10 of these different discussions on any given week, right? They're talking monetary policy. and like what happens if we do this to the bonds and the treasuries, and then Bitcoin's price, what's going to affect it. And honestly, it seems like half the time they miss it. It goes the other way, or, you know, so you have predictions and it goes the other way. It's a very complex equation that we're talking about here, global monetary policy and those types of things. There's just a lot of different factors. So,
but at least it's being validated now. Whereas 10 years ago, people couldn't even say if it was even going to go anywhere. Now we know it has potential to go everywhere. The technology makes sense. And now governments are taking it seriously, and we're discussing having a reserve of it. I mean, how far it's come. A lot of people thought it wouldn't last, right? Back when it first came out, it was, they thought this is crazy, but it's only gotten better and stronger. And they anticipate something like Bitcoin could be worth 2 million in 10 years. Coin.
mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
interesting. But I think there should be a lot of easy explanation so that people, everyday people, can understand it. I think that's what's missing right now is people do not understand it.
Yeah. Well, one, I hope Bitcoin gets to that much, because then it's more versatile in breaking it down, and its uses, it can spread further and there's more of it. But I prefer to look at it as $10 million will be worth one Bitcoin versus Bitcoin's worth that in dollars. Because really, Bitcoin's kind of a static entity, especially we know how much there is. It's a more like gold in that aspect, where the dollar is the thing that adjusts its values around
There's so many different cryptos out there.
It sure is.
There's so many available Bitcoin, but there's other currencies they created. So I think it's confusing for the average person.
It sure is.
I really do.
So
And
one
so
thing again,
how-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. Go. I'm just thinking.
Just trying to help educate again, because UBC, we love this. We love helping people understand the complexity of the tech. To simplify it, Bitcoin really does stand on its own. Like, it stands by itself in the crypto space. I want people to understand that. There's a lot of, you know, parties that are trying to create more out of it in terms of utility, which means usefulness beyond just the digital store of value. So it stands by itself as a digital store of value. But these other projects, Ethereum included, which was kind of the first big layer one project that launched to create a decentralized network that you could process transactions on. One way that this helps people to understand is, if you think about the internet, you could think about these other projects, especially if they're layer one, as everyone calls them Web3. So internet version 3, right? That's the future of the internet, could be on these projects. It's a decentralized network. And so if you're looking at the tokens or the coins that you mentioned, Holly, like, there's so many of them. Most of these are, well, first of all, most of them are nonsense. Okay. But there are a few good utility tokens, and that's how we differentiate in the market. If people are seriously interested in learning, go out and look at utility tokens. That is a search term now that will bring information that you can learn about tokens that are actually being used in this new world that's coming for the new internet version 3, Web 3, as we call it. This is a way to look at utility tokens that are going to contribute to that they will actually make sense. And a lot of the tokens are used to represent, it's not really a stock. Again, I use it as a really loose analogy, but it is a representation of that ecosystem that they can use to interact with that particular project. So that's very different than Bitcoin, right? And so all these other coins that you mentioned, and there's categories, there's subcategories. We don't need to get into that, but there's gaming, and there's the meme coins, which are just, that's casino.
They're fun.
That's a casino.
They're fun.
Like,
it's like, what was that they had before? NFTs.
Yeah, NFTs. Yep, they came and went, and that's like digital art. Okay, digital art that people were paying a ton for, and because it was unique. Again, the blockchain made it so that NFTs could be absolutely unique, and you couldn't copy them, right? So that came and went, and now we've got meme coins. People love those, and so society, they love the speculation. They love the casinos, right? And so They love speculating. Unfortunately, I don't think it does the industry justice that there's so much attention on that part of it, because you can really just lose so much money. But utility tokens, UBC, we like to stress that because that's where the future is. That's where you have the government, real world applications of the technology. It's going to change the financial structure. It's going to change the way we do business. It's going to change the way we interact with government. Look at the utility projects and remember that they're very different than Bitcoin, which is a digital store of value. So I don't know if that helps, but
no, I like that idea. And sorry, we took you off track of general blockchain into just the tip of the spear, talking about the different coin part of it, because it is, I think, blockchain is a much bigger conversation as far as, I mean, imagine if the Department of Defense was on a blockchain. One, they could audit it every day. It'd take no time at all. And they could maybe tell them to keep track of the money a little bit.
Every department.
Good job, Marine Corps, the first one to come clean in 21 years, just this last year. I mean, the first time any Department of Defense entity came, met their audit in 21 years. That's kind of ridiculous to drink in. So I want to drag it back to your
business.
Yeah, what you guys are doing. Is there stuff that you guys are working on that maybe our listeners can get behind you and help you out with, or anything like that?
So cool of you to ask, Jared. I would say people that are interested in learning more about the tech, get involved with us. We have a LinkedIn page. We've got a website. Go ahead and sign up for our newsletter. Sign up to be a member if you'd like to start really attending some cool activities and events where we learn, we educate, we network. I would encourage anyone to get involved, even if you're a newbie and you don't really know the tech, you're just looking to learn more. We would love to encourage people to do that. And so, yeah, I would say come out and join our community, join the conversation, come be with us, and be a part and learn. That's probably the place to start, is just start showing up at our events and follow that.
Do you offer an intro to this whole world for the people that aren't geeks, who don't really understand the technology? Because I think a lot of people are ready to learn about it and really understand it, but they want someone to explain it non-binary in the way that, hey, you don't have to understand computers and all of that. But you go to maybe one of your events and there's a place where they kind of explain it, or is it something they should research on their own and then come to your events?
No, come to the events first. Come and ask questions, come and learn. Our events are typically focused on a specific topic, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of different topics we try to focus on. So come and start there and learn about a topic and ask questions. Typically our community loves to help people learn. And so there's no need to feel sheepish or stupid. The truth is, this technology, pretty much can make everyone feel stupid, right? I mean,
thank you.
If anyone's ever met a Bitcoin person, they love to talk to you about it. It's okay. You'll find out. Just, it's like vegans.
But I think you get away from the word Bitcoin and just go into
No,
blockchain.
it's just blockchain.
Because people put it in their heads. Once you bring up Bitcoin, you're like, okay, I can't. It's like a multi-level marketing scheme.
It was a joke I put out there. It was a joke.
Just come and learn about it. Yeah, just come and learn about it.
So when's your next event that people could go to?
We're looking at March 26th right now. Around the point of the mountain. We're finalizing the details for that, but it's going to be, I think it could be a really exciting chance for people to come and learn about decentralized finance. We call it DeFi for short, for those that don't know the terminology. But decentralized finance, that's one of the biggest leading use cases that's going to affect everybody, right? I mean, Venmo, PayPal, you can already use it with those apps. I'll bet a lot of people don't even know that they can use digital currency with those apps that they use every day already. And so we're going to have a kind of an entry-level course by some experts on, hey, if you guys want to get involved with decentralized finance, this is how you do it. This is how you can start using it right now. So I think that's a great opportunity. End of March, check out our page, LinkedIn, and follow that. We'll be posting those details.
Will one of you guys reach out and let me know when you boil down when it is so we can help advertise it for you?
Yeah, we can do that. That'd be great. Thanks, Jared.
So I have a question. When you say decentralized finance, I'm picturing 2020 and then all of the regulations that came in. And if you had $600 deposit into your bank account, the government would get a notice, or Venmo could decide to cut you off, or PayPal could decide they're not going to pay gun companies, and all of this that was happening. Is this saying this is going around that to where they're not regulating how you spend your money as an American citizen?
So when we say decentralized finance, yeah, it's probably not referring. It's not referring to that. It's referring to not using all the traditional financial middlemen like banks and all those middlemen that are touching your money, that are taking fees, that are like all of that.
That are loaning it out and
Yep.
making money off of your money, right?
Yep. It's referring to that whole, and it's an old system now. It's really old. Even the tech behind it is old. And so DeFi is the next evolution. It's the next step. And how do you take control of your own funds? How do you go out and forget the middlemen? You can create loans on your own. You can lend on your own. You can collect your own interest. It's really, really empowering. It's really interesting to see how that is developing. And so that's something we're going to talk about.
I wonder
Fantastic.
how that'll work against the fractional reserve. And maybe that's the regulation that waiting for government to put up guardrails on, because fractional reserve banking has allowed growth, but it's been also awful costly. So I don't know. That's a big question. And I'm not smart enough to understand it. But also, I just want to throw out there, the blockchain, when the AI overlords take over, how else are we going to democratically communicate with them?
Well, they're all going to be libertarians for one. So
they better be. You guys had better write them up quicker than
that was the two groups that were early investors: libertarians or the computer geeks. So those were the early guys.
We're just going to need John Connors there, Jared. We're just going to need John Connors. All right. So
got to take down Skynet. I've seen that documentary. I know how it plays out.
Well, it makes sense that libertarians would like this. They're a great group of folks that just want people to leave them alone.
Yeah,
and
we are crazy.
Let them be free. And that's what freedom essentially is. So my concern too is worldwide. Freedom isn't everywhere. Governments don't like this happening for their people. And just to go back to a couple of comments, Dwayne says that it became contraband in China, automatic increase with the respect to the yuan. China and Russia has now Bitcoin mining allowed, and Dwayne says re-allowed in China because they put resources into mining again. Thomas says El Salvador makes his economy great again with BTC as the state currency.
Yes, and they've done some interesting stuff with mining down there.
Dwayne says Three Gorges Dam in China, largest hydropower in the world to mine Bitcoin. So I mean, this has to be married in government. It just has to be, because you see governments are going to use this or they're not going to allow it. And I think that, and we keep saying Bitcoin, but I'm talking about this type of
the data,
everything. I mean, this type of technology,
data retention
if it's in the right hands, it could be really great for another dose of freedom for the American people. If it's in the wrong hands,
sure.
How could you see it going awry in the wrong hands? I mean, is it AI? Is it something that
is it AI?
The AI is going to take over?
No, AI is taking us over. That's how we talk to AI.
But you got to think about it. It's your money. Money is people's well-being, and if they can control their own money, I think they're more powerful. But I mean, if there's an EMP or something that puts us back to the Stone Age, none of this exists anymore.
We will definitely have bigger issues, I think, if there is an EMP big enough that does that, because that is something. I actually have books on EMPs, and I'm a little bit of a prepper wannabe, if you will.
Yeah.
Precious
Precious metals for EMPs.
Guns.
Yeah, precious metals, lead,
Yeah.
copper, saltpeter.
Brass is the most valuable then.
Yep.
Brass and food.
Yep.
So Aaron has to drop in a few minutes, but I thought there's a couple things I think your listeners may get a kick out of that I wanted to mention. Are you guys, and maybe some of your listeners know this, are you familiar with the Genesis block?
Not at all.
So the Genesis block, essentially the very first block 0, right? So in that code, it said it had just a one-liner. It was the Times, 3rd January 2009, Chancellor on the brink of second bailout for banks. And essentially this was a reference to the headline of the Times newspaper, January 3rd, 2009. And basically it served as a timestamp, not only proving the block wasn't pre-mined, but also acted as a subtle critique of the traditional financial system.
So it was like a hostage holding up a newspaper about the situation that he took hostage.
It was a warning. It was like, this is why I put this together. I've been working on this. This was the perfect timing, reinforcing Bitcoin's purpose as an alternative to centralized banking. Again, a lot of the early adopters were Ron Paul gold bugs. And then when they saw the writing on the wall, they transitioned to this digital gold, if you will. And those are the guys that are in charge now. I mean, and so I kind of love it for that reason. There is still a couple holdouts. If you're familiar with Austrian economics, Peter Schiff he'll die a gold bug guy. But that's been interesting.
Is that because he moved down to Puerto Rico and electricity is awful sketchy down there?
Yeah. I've had a friend, a very good friend actually, who worked for Peter back in the day and got paid in Bitcoin. And even though Peter was not a fan, and it's quite fun to watch Peter. They're both intelligent, but Peter Schiff's son and him sometimes battling it out on X, man, it's just brutal.
Yeah.
The other thing that, we bring up China, it's important to know, going back to not only kind of my libertarian Austrian econ roots, but also with investing, we talked about China banning. When that happens, Bitcoin's value, it certainly does drop. But what happens when a big player like China tries to regulate is essentially it has a short-term price drop. That's the time to buy. And
it jumps right back.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think it was the middle of 2021 that China banned it. And it went from like 55 to like 30,000 within just a few weeks. However, by September of that same year, it had already recovered. And then by the end of that year, November 2021, man, it was a wild time because it hit an all-time high. Can you guys think of what that might have been? 69,000. That was
their all-time high is like 108, isn't it?
But in 2021, right after China tried to ban it,
yep,
that was an all-time high, right? And so it's just like, think about what we wouldn't do to go back and buy it at that all-time high, right? Michael Saylor is actively buying. He doesn't care if it's 50 or 100,000. He
puts
got
X amount into it.
My
got
husband and I
conviction.
had a knockdown drag out when it was under 300 and I wanted to buy, and he's like, that's crazy. You can't own it. And I remember it to the point where we don't even talk crypto in our house because it is such a very toxic subject. And, and this was in 2012 or something, or 2011.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm just like, and I just listened to a talk show, these talk show guys, Doc Thompson, and he's like, get in now. It's only $300. And so I was like, yeah, we're going to do it. I can't even imagine. And they say that one day you'll be looking back and remember when it was only 100,000 a coin, because it could go up so high. But now I'm curious, when China talks about banning it, why would it drop if, does that make people nervous, the regulation?
Well, it took value out of the market of it in all of China.
I would think that it would make it more hard to get, and people, I'm still trying to understand, because I'm thinking of it like a stock, and if it's its own thing like gold, I mean, the market will decide what it's worth. So Aaron, you said you have to go soon. Is there something you want to leave us with? Should we show the website again and let people know where to go? Do you have to be a member to attend your events? I noticed there's a membership on the website.
Yeah, great question. So we've actually changed it a bit. The website is not indicative. The basic membership says $100, but we're actually opening that up for free. So anyone can join the basic membership. The event at the end of this month is open. So like we do these big open events once a quarter. And this end of this month will be one of those. So anyone can attend. It's free. Membership is free at that basic level. We do have a VIP level, Holly, and that's like, we did an event today up in Salt Lake where it's small curated groups where we really bring really high quality, interesting people on very specific topics. And that's what we open up for our VIP membership. We do that just to create opportunities for those who have very specific interests. But basic membership is free. And so we welcome everyone to come and join us for those.
I love this. I'm happy to share your events and the opportunity. I think a lot of people, it still feels like you're getting in at the ground floor with this technology. I don't think people have missed the boat or anything. It's not like Apple stock where, it'll never be what it was again. I feel like the opportunities this technology has are endless and could work at every facet of a small business to government. I mean, this is exciting. And I appreciate that you guys are on here and helping explain it to me and to our viewers, because I think a lot of people are in the same boat I am, that I don't understand it enough to talk about it in depth, but the ideas keep coming no matter what. They just keep coming of, my goodness, this would be brilliant.
Well, one, I don't think it's a buy-in thing. It's going to happen regardless, I believe. I just think it's the only logical aspect of the future. And I don't understand it, but how many people understand fractional reserve banking?
I don't think they have to. Their whole world is wrapped up in
it's going to be the same thing. Eventually, it's not going to be, I'm buying Bitcoin. It's going to be, I got paid in Bitcoin, but I want to buy a couple of vintage dollars to hang on my collection wall. And I honestly, or you know what? I got paid in Bitcoin, but I'm swapping over to Ethereum because that store I like to buy gas at, likes Ethereum better for whatever reason.
I think that the pay systems like Venmo and PayPal, giving this a platform and actually looking at it, recognizing it, makes it more valuable because everyday people can use it. I've even seen an app online where you can get your change in a transaction in Bitcoin, even if it's 60 cents, 7 cents, it's adding up your Bitcoin portfolio, which, I mean, this is where we're headed. I'm excited for it, but I think we need to catch up and educate folks. Teenagers need to know about this. They should be teaching this in high school. I just think that if that's where the market's going and that's where the world is going, in order for Trump to make regulation or proposals, I think the American people especially need to understand it and be able to back it properly or argue against it properly. But right now, it just feels like people like you, the smart folks on this, are one step ahead of people like me who have basic understanding. So I love that you're inviting the world to understand with you, and it's right here in our backyard here in Utah. And I think the governor is very positive, right, about this technology and about this idea of a reserve and all of that in the state. Are you seeing
He has been.
support?
No, he's been good with technology in general. And there are classes. There's classes at MIT. There's classes at Princeton. There's stuff you can do online for free with these universities and blockchain courses. So anyway, but I would start for your listeners that don't understand it. It sounds like a lot of them maybe do, including Jared. You seem to be on top of it, but I would start with documentaries. It's the easiest way for me. I'm a visual learner. Documentaries.
What's a good
way to go.
documentary?
Well, honestly, go to go to our website, right? Go to utahblockchain.org, but also you can go to lop.net. He's one of the original cypherpunks, what they used to be called. But he's got a section on there called Bitcoin Info, and it's really well organized and documented. And there's a ton of stuff out there. You could really get caught up in garbage. But
that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, so I trust his stuff, and
Lock
I've gone through
or lot?
LOPP.net. So, but again, get involved locally, especially, if you're in Utah, we would love to have you come out to our events. And I'm a little overdressed. I apologize. I got to get up to the Capitol signing out, right? Ending at midnight tonight for the rest of the year. See if we can talk to our state treasurer and passing this bill we've been following for the Bitcoin reserves. And
can you tell me why he changed his mind on that?
Yeah. Amelia has more details than I do. However, Marla was testifying in favor of this bill.
Yes.
And then some financial firm that you have to pay to be a member that he's trusts, he got a document a few days before it was public that said basically like, don't do it, it's bad. And that killed it. So that's
amazing.
My understanding. Amelia had an hour-long conversation with him, I believe it was last week. And so hopefully she'll be able to come on soon to talk more about that and other things that, other regulatory things and things that we've been implementing in government.
Yes. Well, hey, thanks guys for coming on.
I hope that you will give her our best, and I'm excited to have her. So please reach out when she's available. And
absolutely.
I've been following her a lot since she became a commissioner. In Utah County is well run, and I know her as a county clerk also from afar. From afar, I've heard great things on stuff she's done in the county. But please understand, we appreciate you guys taking the time tonight, and especially explaining as much as you have.
And letting us drag you off into the weeds.
We're good at that.
Hopefully you didn't lose too many listeners.
Well, I don't think it did. I don't know. We'll find out.
That was a really long pause.
A lot of people.
What you call a pregnant pause. You okay over there?
A lot of our listeners are in the gun community, in the prepper sphere, and they hear Bitcoin and they clamp up.
Yeah.
I'm in the gun community in the prepper sphere, and I hear Bitcoin and I'm like, oh, I can buy more stuff. Like when Wells Fargo wouldn't deal with firearms manufacturers and things
That's what
like
I'm
that.
saying. When there's regulation, this feels like it's going to give you freedom to buy a gun if you want.
It depends on how far the government gets into it. But
let's let Aaron drop off. But Amelia, make sure that we talk about Choke Point 2.0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, guys. A real pleasure. Yep.
Hey, it's a pleasure to you. And I want to thank both you guys for taking on this endeavor to bring this to the populace, to bring us into the 21st century, to bring us a little bit of liberty. I love it when libertarians are making moves. Libertarians
are making
a little more statist than I am, but I still like them.
All right, guys.
Aaron,
thanks so much for having us.
keep us posted about your event, because we really want to make sure that we get the word out. And if Jared and I can be there, I definitely will go. And
Yeah, I
and
would love
learn
that.
as much as I can, because I think this is where we're headed in the
Yeah, I'd love
world.
to have you
And
guys
so
there. So we'll do that. We'll be
Was
in
that
touch.
in Lehigh, Aaron? Lehigh
It's
is where you're
probably going
thinking?
to be Point of the Mountain, Draper, actually, Draper side, I think. So,
All right.
yep.
Perfect.
closer.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Have a
Bye,
good
Aaron.
night.
Thanks so much for having
Yeah.
us.
Yep.
Take
Hey,
care.
and thank you, Tobin. You guys have a wonderful night. Be safe on all your travels and everything else.
And be careful up there on the last night. It's crazy up there on Capitol Hill on the last night.
yeah, you
Yeah.
need to come out to Tooele High and learn a little knife fighting before you go up there on.
No doubt. No doubt.
But yes, thank you so much.
All right.
And it was great to talk to you again. I look forward to talking to your wife about how things went with her election when she ran this. That's just interesting to me.
I want to know, a lot of people bringing up Liberland. Do you have some tie to that, Tobin?
Yeah. Do you
Did
guys
you want to?
have you guys talked to your listeners about that? Or do you two
Oh, yeah,
know
we've-
about that? I don't even remember.
David Weiss used to be on this show. He used to be Holly, so they've heard about Liberland.
And we had the guy that was writing the Constitution
Yep.
on the show.
Yep, we
It
had
was
him
so
on.
Oh, that's when I
interesting.
first discovered you guys. I was like, wait, what? Why is he over? What? How is there a
David
podcast
Weiss.
from Tooele? Because I follow all the Liberland chat on some of their stuff on whatever social media they're using. Not social media, but anyway. And I was just so confused, and that's when I got to know David a little better. So.
Mhm.
Yeah, it kind of tripped me up. So
He's
yeah,
a
no,
flag waving citizen
yeah,
of Liberland.
yeah. And for any of your listeners that are LDS, I was actually Amelia and I were fortunate enough to be in kind of the right place, the right time. We took the president of Liberland through the DC temple.
Oh,
When they
wow.
had their open house. He was just asking all kinds of questions, and it was kind of a fun, unique opportunity. So,
Did you do the J. Golden Kimball on him?
What
we
is
left
that?
that up to Michael Proper. So Michael Proper, do you guys know him?
I do
He's,
not.
So Liberland will
he's a-
have a temple, is what you're saying?
If
The
they get
pioneers
enough,
are moving to Liberland.
they get enough people, enough
yeah,
Mormons.
he wanted the president was definitely asking if there's any way that we could get some more LDS presence, maybe a temple in Liberland. And I reached out to the nearby missions, and I of course looked up the temples, and I that's probably not going to happen, but but there could be a way to work with the local
They could put
LDS
a church
community.
there. A
It's
lot
all
of communities.
it's all
build around
populist
church.
driven, I think. But let me tell the funny story about Jay Golden. This is a story told to me by my father. It may be incorrect, but it's funny. So he's Jay Golden Kimball was in the presidency of the church, late 1800s, humming, whatever. German guy comes over and Jay Golden got assigned to show him around Salt Lake, and so they're getting driven around, and he says, "Oh, there's the headquarters of the church," and and the German guy says, "How long did that take to be built?" And he said, "Oh, it took 3 years." And he said, "Oh, in Germany we'd have built it in 2 years." Okay, and there's the temple, and the German guy says, "How long did that take to get built?" And he says, "Oh, it took us about 15 years." He says, "Oh, in Germany we'd have built that in 10 years." And then he says, and there's the big ZCMI shopping center. He says, "How long did that take to get built?" And he turned his head and goes, "Holy shit, that wasn't there yesterday."
Are you? That's funny.
I like Jay Golden Kimball stories just because, it's a funnier time, I guess.
Really glad you got
That's
that
for
out.
that's for the Mormons.
And we
in the
were all
group.
supposed to know that private joke when you threw that name out.
Do you know who Jay Golden is?
I've heard of him. I don't know near as much history as you do, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have had the opportunity to work with Heber C. Kimball recently, however.
Oh.
There's a lot of famous Kimballs in the Mormon church, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, when you're the second in charge of the church with 30 something wives, you're gonna.
I don't know. Wasn't there a newer Kimball? I'm not sure, but I know. And you know what, Tobin, you and I have a lot of friends in common. When I was
Yeah.
on your LinkedIn, I was like, oh my goodness, we know all the same people.
It's fun to finally connect because I've seen you around, but we've never had an actual conversation, but we kind of travel in a lot of the same circles. So
I'm excited. Thank you for doing the show. I'm
Absolutely.
so excited, and we definitely want to stay up on what's happening.
Mhm.
So anything that happens tonight, please keep us updated. We'll throw it in on the show, and we'll drive people to
Sure.
the website. And we get a lot of views on YouTube after the show. So if you check out that YouTube post and people leave comments,
And
we might be
Facebook.
able to answer. Facebook, Rumble.
A lot of our viewers are out partying on Friday nights, so they join us later.
But we definitely appreciate it. And again, like I said, the more I can learn now, the better I feel discussing it in a public setting with folks. And I think that's the key to getting not only a legislature on board with stuff like this, but just the average voter. So when their knowledge is power, right? And if they can understand it, and that way our local governments can understand it. We've talked about our local council. Are you guys thinking of doing a reserve or a rainy day fund using crypto as part of it? It's still volatile. I think when it can go from 108,000 to 80,000, that still scares people.
Yeah, and it depends on the time frame, right? It depends if you're only investing or buying for a year, less than a year, absolutely that's not wise. But if you're investing, I mean, if you've invested 5 years or longer, you haven't lost anything in specifically talking about Bitcoin right now, as an example. So if you go out and pull up the charts of the highest performing asset class each year, it's quite fascinating. But anyway, so it really just depends on, again, going back into my investment manager days, it just depends on your risk tolerance and your time frame. So
I just saw an episode with Tucker Carlson when he had the guy who he says your portfolio like Nancy Pelosi. You want to get rich, follow how she invests. And they've got this app they've created. And Nancy Pelosi did like 55% positive over the course of a year. That was one of the best podcasts I'd actually listened to. And I send people to listen to it.
What is it called? The Autopilot app.
Yeah, Autopilot, because they couldn't use her name.
Yeah.
And yet,
you can also select to follow Crenshaw on there.
You know the guy who does and is he on NBC? The bald guy that gets people to invest.
That is wrong on
his app. On this app, if you invest against him, you actually made 45%. It's still great, but I'm still just learning about investment and I don't do my own purchases. I don't purchase stocks. I have a company for that. And the fact that Fidelity is someone you work for was investing in this gives it legitimacy. And I mean, we know millionaires.
They're a conservative company.
Yeah.
Fidelity is a conservative company. I had to read lengthy statements every time a client wanted to buy a penny stock through me using Fidelity. And it's just not something. And that would be kind of like a lot of these pop-up altcoins that just are coming and going and rug pulls. They're like the penny stocks of the.
How did Doge make it so far? Because that's kind of what
Elon,
Doge was.
Freaking Elon,
Musk.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, I think it started out as a joke, but I think they probably added layers, since then. But I still.
Well, it's gained value.
Yeah,
I've made a ton of money on Doge, and I bought it as a joke.
Yeah.
But I'm not selling it. I mean, I'm sitting on it, and I knew if I spent a few $100s and then walked away, I'll look it up in 15 years and see what's going on. I'm bullish like that.
It's not hard. It's not a bad thing to be a little bit diversified, even in crypto. I mean, I probably should be more diversified in my crypto than I am, but I've got a few. So just
I wish it was Bitcoin that I had done years and years ago, but we won't talk about it, honey. But at the same time, like, hey, let's get
It's never
something
too
while
late,
it's
though.
cheap, and then we just sit on it, and maybe someday it'll be something, but it's money you can afford to lose if it becomes nothing.
Eventually, you won't have to buy it. Eventually, if it's not Bitcoin, it is going to be. I think it has to. There's going to be a drive from people to move from centralized banking. There's going to be.
Would the United States create its own in lieu of
that's
the
what
dollar
the-
and just create its own cryptocurrency
Oh,
Sure.
don't.
treasury?
but it'll
I'm-
be centralized, I think, right?
Yeah, it'll be the same
So,
thing.
yeah.
Highly regulated.
They're already working on the digital dollar.
Yeah.
you know?
Okay, it's 8:00 and you
Yes,
probably have
Tobin.
to get up there.
Thank you so
I'm
much,
just
good
waiting
sir.
for Amelia to get back because we were gonna carpool down together. She's not here.
Good.
Well, she's almost here. But
Well, we'll cut you loose. Give her our best. Tell
Yes.
her we look forward to talking with her.
I will.
Just she can just reach out and tell me when she's ready to come on. We do our shows on Friday nights. So when she has a free Friday at 6:30, we'll throw her on.
We have guests the next 2 weeks.
Yeah,
You guys-
yeah, but we'll
we'll figure something out.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it depends. We want to give her as much time as she needs. And
Yeah.
again, we need to start from ground zero because it's technology. We want people to understand it. So right out of the gate, she can explain because the way she's used it is fascinating. And I know she's part of this company that you guys are, the Utah blockchain, and she's a wealth of information, both politically and privately. So we want to give her as much time as she can,
Yeah.
offer.
Well, I want to add, there are, would you guys, is your podcast, would you say it's right leaning? It's political heavy, right? It's
Yeah.
political
It's
head
literally
trauma.
politically had
Yeah.
trauma.
And it is right leaning. I mean, Holly's a Republican chair. I'm a whisper under my breath anarcho-capitalist that recognizes that won't work, which is what I am.
Do you see all my Ludwig von Mises and Rothbard
Yes.
books back here?
Yes.
I would want to add that. I mean, I know, Holly, you mentioned company. A company is like there are other very right-leaning organizations that have really put a target on my back, on Amelia's back, because we're involved in this blockchain company, and we've been running it off of my credit card for the 2.5, 3 years. Like, we've made zero, it's only been a negative. So that's when I brought Aaron on. And Aaron's kind of like the bad cop. He's like, look, we've got this membership tier structure. I passed it with my members a while back. I just never implemented. I'm the good cop. I'm just like, come everybody, let's just do this together. And Aaron's like, this is not sustainable. We need to do some paid members, and so I knew that he would be really great at helping to create a sustainable organization. And I'm just so grateful that he's willing to join us and really take over the day-to-day on a lot of these things.
Why a target, Tobin? What
Because
are
it's
people
just
afraid
a new
of?
technology. It's new tech. It's going back to the decentralized, centralized thing. They don't know, and sometimes they think they know, and we're getting money from George Soros or something crazy, right? I mean, both our Toyotas have 200,000 miles. Like, I wouldn't be driving that. I'd be driving a
Where you at,
10,000
Soros?
mile Toyota if I had more money.
Yeah.
Hey, I want you to know, and I may be right leaning. I'm very conservative, but this whole point of this show is to educate our friends and to let them know what's going on, both in government and in the private sector, and to empower them with that education. So you are always welcome here. I don't understand. I think people fear what they don't understand,
Of course,
which
yeah, and I
makes
get
me
that.
want to help people understand 10 times more.
Well,
Because
one
when
of
you have the knowledge, then you can
Yeah.
decide.
one of the hit pieces, it's a podcast just like this, and they went on for a long time, hitting us pretty hard, and we had do you know Josh Daniels?
I do not.
Josh
Yes, the county
Daniels,
clerk.
yeah, performer, and they had him on their show, and it was a good, I don't know, 1 hour, 2 hour conversation, and they never aired it. He rebutted everything, and poked holes in all their arguments, and it didn't fit their narrative of corrupt Utah. And
I adore Josh
I'm
Daniels.
kind of thinking I might know which show you're talking about, but no, I don't. I mean, there's corruption
I was
in
in
Utah.
Milwaukee
There's
with
corruption
Josh.
in everywhere. No, it is the future. It has to be. It has to be the future. We're moving into a means to record and track everything, because everything's moving digital. Let's spread it around. Let's make it so it can't be corrupted. Or at least if you're going to corrupt it, you're going to have to earn it.
But
You
we're
know?
still America. If you don't want to participate in it, don't.
yeah.
I mean, when the government starts making rules and laws about it, as long as they understand it enough to convince the American people, because that's what they have to do. Hopefully, in this new age, the golden age, we need to understand what's happening in
Well,
our government.
If the government
And-
doesn't get involved, the American people are going to end up getting involved without the government.
And other governments will. That's the other thing. Other governments in other countries are going to get involved. We should be leading by example. So it's happening, but I honestly, I mean, I could stand here and go, gold is crap, and I can't believe people who believe in gold. Gold is gold. Money and currency is currency. You buy it or you don't. I don't like this whole Target thing, and I absolutely think that you got to have an open mind right now. Technology is going to overrun us if we don't. Just gotta be on board.
An analogy, I can't remember if it was with you guys or somebody recently. I use this analogy, and I think it works. It's like growth, right? I mean, we don't, a lot of us don't necessarily want growth. A lot of us want our small town feel, right? But it's going to happen unless we want to turn Utah into California. Then we can have a good mass exodus, but that's not what we want. So growth is going to happen. So why don't we get ahead of it and manage it? Same with digital. Let's get ahead and manage it and put in regulations that are pro-liberty, pro-privacy, right? Instead of just letting it happen to us.
Tell me about this government doing pro-liberty and pro-privacy stuff you hear of. Tell me more.
Yeah. So
it's a double-edged sword, no matter what. Growth, especially.
I think
we do smart, slow, steady growth,
right,
that makes sense. But that's the thing is, we don't want big growth in Tooele County, and the same people yelling that are also yelling that we don't have a Costco. They just don't understand how that works, and it all comes back to educating folks. So they understand, and then, like you said, get in front of it, plan for it. And government regulation, it's a no-brainer, but I believe we're in a golden age. I hope we are. I hope freedom comes first. And I hope that the politicians have awakened to the idea the American people are ready to be in charge of themselves, even though they may let us down. Americans sometimes go back to sleep, and we can't have that. We can't have that. We all need to be present and understand what's happening and be prepared for the future, because it's coming.
Yeah, it's bound to happen. I mean, look at the way you get your entertainment nowadays. It's gone decentralized. Your entertainment is now YouTube. I mean, when Joe Rogan, some of his most popular podcasts are when he has Dave Smith on talking about all this stuff, when and so moving to blockchain networks, that's decentralization. That's more choice. That's more everything.
I think privacy is key in this country. And I think protecting our data should be at the forefront of every politician's mind, because it has been just the American people's privacy has just been ripped apart. And that's one of our amendments. I mean, in the Constitution, and we need to get back to that.
How would it be?
Well, I
Well,
would just
Tobin,
add 3 words to any
Yes.
of your listeners that want to get involved. Just dollar cost average. Don't try to play the stock market game. Don't play.
It looks like she just
don't
got home.
time.
No,
Yes, Amelia
dollar
just
cost
got
average.
home.
So you're telling people not to invest in stocks on their own?
I'm just saying, don't dump all your money into anything all at once. I'm just saying, just buy a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
That's my recommendation.
Buy
Although
some
none of
9
this
millimeter, some 5.56.
yeah,
little 10
absolutely.
millimeter
That's
for
called
the special
Do you
care
diversification.
suggest they buy all the different Bitcoins, or like put a little in each, or they just widen their portfolio by having stocks, gold, Bitcoin, or any crypto?
I mean, again, I'm not currently licensed any longer, so none of this is financial advice.
No,
I'm not a
of
lawyer.
course
None
not.
of this is legal advice.
Entertainment only, folks.
Yes. It doesn't, you could be a little diversified in your portfolio over, real estate, stocks, bonds. If you get nervous, if you diversify with crypto, be careful, especially, maybe just stick to the top 10. There's mutual funds, there's ETFs, exchange traded funds that you can invest in. If you have money in a 401k or an IRA, for example, you can invest in the top 10 in a single exchange traded fund. But unless you really feel something about something that's outside of the top 10 cryptos, I maybe would steer clear. But anyway, so diversification is okay, but I do like to stick to the originals.
Well, it's
for the
new,
most
and
part.
they need to get their legs, and we need to know what's going to happen with them. So I'm with you on that. That makes a lot of sense for entertainment
and
only.
don't hesitate to ask buddies of yours who are into crypto.
Don't worry, they'll tell you, right?
Yeah, they'll tell you. Just go stand at a urinal. They'll come right up. Yeah. Anyways,
Thank you,
Tobin,
Tobin.
thank you very much. Say hi to your wife for us. Thank you guys
Well.
for doing the hard work up on the Capitol for us. I know it takes energy and effort to get up there and
It's a labor of love.
try to break through to them. So thank you very much. Have a good night. Be safe. Safe travels, everything else. And
Thanks.
I hope to see you when you hold your event in Lehigh. Please reach out
Yeah.
and let us know.
Let us know.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Thanks, Jared. Thanks, Holly.
Thank
Yes,
you.
have a good
See you
night.
too. Take care.
All right,
Bye.
everyone. That's the show right there.
Well, I think we could talk about it for a second.
You want to talk about it for a second? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I'm just like, I know it's a lot for people to digest, and I think there's a lot of confusion, and they offer a lot of different ideas. So go to the site and go to the events if you're interested.
Yeah.
And I know that, it's a hard time. Our economy is going through a hard
David
time.
be rolling around if he knew we were going to a Bitcoin thing without him. Yeah, Dwayne calls out BRICS. I was trying to say earlier, Brazil, Russia, India, China.
I've read all of that.
It became contraband in China, Hamana, real out in China. El Salvador has a volcano there that they're doing geoelectric production for Bitcoin mining. So they're like harvesting this natural energy. That's pretty cool. Maybe we'll get a Dyson sphere going and then will be a Bitcoin planet. Three Gorges Dam. That's the stuff you read about it. The reason earlier in the show I said we may be moving closer to Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, is because China is doing a lot of things that are hurting them. Like the Three Gorges Dam have economically destroyed the Cambodia and some parts of Vietnam, like where they used to have flooding that supported their economy. And so I think we're going to see, just out of spite, they're going to draw closer to us. Not to mention Vietnam's not friendly with them after the whole Chinese-Vietnam War.
Okay. I think that China needs to be paid attention to.
Of course.
I think when they make threats, we listen. I think when China is just, it is a superpower
it's our
in
Thucydides
this
trap.
world. And I think we're nervous about Russia, but I don't think you ever discount China. And that's a lot of people and it's a big industry and we're going to see. And I'm telling you, I know that it's going to get harder before it gets easier. So while the economy is finding its legs, we're watching all these jobs be added. We've also seen unemployment's going to go up. And here's why. Because when you start cutting the biggest employer in the country, we're going to have, and that's the government, the unemployment's going to go up. And my heart is with anyone who works for the government who may be losing their job. At the end of the day, I want them to think about what is best for the country and for freedom. Because there's got to be some give. We either want to have a smaller government or we don't.
Well, do you want the government to be the largest employer in your nation?
It shouldn't be.
Is that the symbol of a free nation? Thomas George Pullman says, let's talk about NFT. Great idea. The NFTs, that was a wild time. That was like a wild year where people would paint a digital picture and then sell it. And it would go for crazy
it's
money.
insane to me because you can't own it, hold it, nothing.
It means non-fungible transaction. It's wild. It was just
now
money
you can
moving
get it
around.
for free with AI.
And then he says, I think BTC, Bitcoin, goes till the end of 2025 to 200K. Wow. Boy, that's 200K at the end of 2025. There, I think someone told me, and I don't know this for sure, they guesstimate the last Bitcoin will be mined in like 2035 or something like that. It's interesting.
How do they know? And who decides it's how many Bitcoin there are?
What do you mean?
How does someone know how many Bitcoin there are?
Because the Bitcoins are mined, they're created. So you take your computer and you get the Bitcoin program on there, the Bitcoin mining program.
Our friend Chris Fields does it.
Your computer then puts energy forward towards mining Bitcoin. It's like I've had it put forward that it guesses a number between or whatever, solves an equation for the computer. Say, yes, you've been awarded 1 Bitcoin. So it takes
it's
energy.
Gambling.
No, it's not gambling. It takes energy. You put energy into your computer for it to go through the process of mining a Bitcoin, and then the Bitcoin appears in your wallet, and then you sell it out for a charge.
I thought they said there's only a certain amount.
There is.
And once they're gone, they're gone.
My question they're gone. Once they're created, they're created. It was in the beginning.
What the number is.
In the beginning, and what is it? Dave, you better be on here still. 21 million or whatever. In the beginning,
it's all magic.
It
and
was written
and
into the program that this is the end. This is how many there are.
Yeah, that's why. And who decided that?
The guy who designed it, Satoshi. Is he a real guy? I don't know.
Bitcoin price development. The current Bitcoin price today is 86,504.58 with 24-hour trading volume. Bitcoin has fallen by 3.39% in the last 24 hours. In the current ranking by market capitalization, Bitcoin is in number 1 place. Currently 19 million of the... Oh, so we're talking Bitcoin on the market. So we're talking less than 20 Bitcoin out there?
20 million Bitcoin.
Wait.
But and every time
there are currently 19,833,637 of 19,833,659. That's a difference of less than 20.
Does that mean how much Bitcoin has been made? And that's how much is on the market. And that might be,
You're telling me there's only like less than 20 Bitcoin out there to still mine?
No, I don't think that's the total. I think it's 21. God, Dave, where you at? You need to be on here. I think it's 21 million. Am I correct, Thomas? That's how much Bitcoin there's going to be in the end. Or there's billions of Bitcoin in the end.
So there's 1.7 billion Bitcoin and they've only mined 19 million. Is that accurate? See, and this is why people go, I don't want to know. It's too crazy.
Yeah. 21 million is the limit on Bitcoin. That's when there's no more mining of Bitcoin. And that's when Bitcoin is just a currency out on the markets.
So it's like gold, but
it's
you
like
can
gold.
always find more gold.
No, you can't always. One day there's going to be all the gold on earth will be
Yes,
mined.
but there's not a set number. Depending on where
Actually,
you
they
dig.
think they know how much
could
gold there is.
determine.
It's 3 Olympic swimming pools.
They can't tell you what the weather's going to be next week, but they can tell you how much gold is in the ground and how deep. They can't tell you where all the oil is.
That's what they're saying.
Okay, we're going off into the weeds. We're really grateful for our guests tonight.
And we're grateful for our listeners.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And next week, we are going to have 2 ladies that are coming to talk about a new school that they've created, and they're out of Grantsville. And it's very exciting. Pay attention to the page, and we'll advertise it this week. We're very excited. And then in 2 weeks, we're having a guest who is over the Young Republicans.
Yeah, Thomas, you're here at 4:30 in the morning. Thomas, we need to have Thomas on to talk about how the German election went, because that is interesting. It looks like, to me, like a little bit of rigging, but I would like to have Thomas reach out. Thomas, we need to have you on. And he also talked about earlier having the blockchain, the Liberland blockchain guy on. So get us in touch. Let's have you and them on. We'll make a show of it. Have you on for an hour, them on for an hour. I would like to learn more about both aspects, but the German election has really turned interesting this year. It's crazy time. Crazy times. All right. My phone is going off. I don't know what's going on. But anyways, thank you for joining us, everyone.
We love Germany. I love Germany so much.
Holly is her husband is
born in Stuttgart, Bad Cannstatt.
Yeah, a son of Germany, one of Germany's sons. And I hope Germany fares better than it has in the last little while.
Did their election turn out?
Oh, it's interesting. What is it called? The AFD, kind of, from what I look at, and don't tell us. I want to have Thomas on to talk about it.
When? We've got shows booked out the next
couple
2
weeks,
weeks.
then 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
I need to know, did it fare well? I got to know.
Love you, Thomas.
I've not heard anything about how it turned out. I know that that third party or whatever
AFD,
was gaining traction.
And then they kind of got bounced out. But I want Thomas to come on and talk about it, because I would be completely talking out of my butt. Normally I'm good about that, but tonight I'm going to refrain. Yes. And
visit Liberland and watch at www.liberland.org, and we'll have him come on and talk about Liberland as well as the elections in Germany. So let us know when you can do that, Thomas, because we sure appreciate you watching, and we really appreciate your engagement. I know it's early in the morning, and they're literally 8 hours ahead of us. And so that's actually, you actually have to try to watch us live.
That's
and
effort. That's putting in effort. So,
and to contribute.
That's
and that
why we're
means
going to put in
everything to
effort
us.
for Liberland. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful night. Be safe. I hope everyone's weekend goes fantastic. I hope it really works out for you.
Guten Morgen in Deutschland.
Yeah.
We
I don't know
appreciate
any
you.
German. I should learn how to say beer in German. I think it's probably beer. Anyways, and I don't water. Lager, that means brewed in the cold, cave beer.
I was in Oktoberfest, and we watched them literally pull out a wooden barrel, brought it out of the refrigerator, and popped it, and poured my brother and my husband a Hefeweizen, and it still had wood chips in it. And my husband couldn't care less. He couldn't drink it fast enough, wood and all, because their Hefeweizen is the best. It is the best.
I believe that means yeasty wheat. Hefeweizen.
It means money during Oktoberfest.
Yes. I am an IPA guy myself, but that's because I love the smell of hops.
When in Germany, you drink like the Germans,
Yes.
and you don't get hungover as much. And the Heffy there is really great. Plus, being served by women with giant arms, and they're carrying multiple steins that are this big,
Giant
and they've got like
arms.
10 in each hand. It's amazing, and that's a Hofbrauhaus, which is incredible.
Yep. All right, guys, have a good weekend. Be safe. Hamana. Thank you, Holly. Dave, thank you for setting us up with our wonderful guest tonight. And we look forward to having more information thrown at us so that
Dankeschön, Thomas.
learn some
Wiedersehen.
stuff. Yes.
And goodbye to you, everybody. We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. It's my
Yes.
baby boy's birthday this weekend.
Ooh, tell him happy birthday.
I will.
Don't call him baby anymore. I'm
I
sure he
know.
doesn't like that at the ripe
Teenager
old
now.
freshman